That was Stay by the 6 Foot Dolls off the Big Three album. That's the sound of TJs. It was that's when Newport was the new Seattle, one of the great lost Welsh bands, 6 Foot Dolls. I'm James Dean Bradfield, your guest DJ, and next up is Chuck Prophet and Play That Song Again. That was Chuck Prophet and Play That Song Again. Chuck was the frontman of Green and Red. They were the alternative country rockers from the 80s. One of the songs of my childhood, actually. They had a song called Time Ain't Nothing, which is just one of those songs that you used to walk around in the valleys on your little on your little headphones and just get lost to. So it's good to see him back on phone. Anyway, I'm James Dean Bradfield, your guest DJ for the next 3 hours. Coming up on the show today, we've got a session from Saturday's Kids, one of my favourite bands from Sun last October. Then we've got Velvet Underground's White Light, White Heat, is the album to hear before you pop your clogs. And then keeping it rocking, we've got the mighty rock block of Retro Metal Mayhem, which features Rush, UFO, Sabbath and Hanoi Rocks. Next up is Tribes and When My Day Comes. That was When My Day Comes by Tribes. Next up, we've got Anna Calvi. And last year I spent a lot of time sitting around practicing guitar to her album. And she's just a really good guitarist, some difficult stuff in there. So I've come to know this record really well. And this next track reminds me of Kiss in the Dreamhouse era Susie and the Banshees. This is called Blackout. That was Blackout by Anna Calvi. Susie Sue's Hair Apparent, it sounds like to me. This next band are from the Nethley. They're playing festivals across the UK this summer, including The Great Escape. This track is available free to download. This is Cut Ribbons and Paper Shields. That was Saturday's Kids in Session. Huge thanks to Sean Thomas, Rhys Briggs, Jordan Everett and David Sanford. You heard Lying in Wait, I Am a Runner, The Old Comedians and I Regret You. That session was recorded on Friday the 16th of March 2012 in Studio 3 with Alid Wood and Joe Page as the engineers. It was pretty loud. It was in the red, I think, that session. Next up from the band's new album, this is Field Music and I Keep Thinking About a New Thing. That was Field Music and I Keep Thinking About a New Thing. The thing with that band is they kind of fill a gap for me because when the Mystery Jets haven't got a record out, I just go and buy a Field Music record because they somehow seem musically related. Anyway, the next record up is by a band called Husker Du, who were just so influential in their own way in the 80s. They really kind of kept that underground scene alive in America. And there was always this myth in Newport that everybody said they went to see Husker Du at the Stowe Hill Labour Club in Newport. And the place only held about 200 people, but around about 1,000 people told me that actually saw this gig. It was like people lying that they said when they said they saw the Sex Pistols in the 70s. So this is off the album Candy Apple Grey. This is Sorry Somehow. That was Sorry Somehow by Husker Du. The production is slightly dated on that record, I think, but that's why I love it. It just still sounds like the time and place. When I first heard it, it's just they were trailblazers, Husker Du, and they don't really get the credit they deserve. Anyway, next up we got a track from Sam Airy. He's Wrexham based, but now he's living in Leeds. This is from his new EP. This is called The Unlocking. We were just floating away with Sam Airy there. That track was called The Unlocking. Next up, we got a track here by a band called Trouble Funk. I don't really know if this is going to fit into the playlist. It's going to sound a wee bit out of place perhaps, but I have great memories of this track because myself, Nick, Sean and Richey, when we were in the valleys, when we were 17, we're all addicted to this song. We loved it for some reason. So we were playing this alongside The Clash and the Pistols and Guns N' Roses and Hanoi Rocks, and it just shows how mixed up we were. Anyway, this is a track back from the dark days of the 80s. This is called Still Smoking by Trouble Funk. I hope I don't get any complaints about continuity for me playing that track. That was Still Smoking by Trouble Funk. Next up, we got some new talent from North Wales. This is Rosary and Attack. That was Where Sorrow Lays by J.K. LMNO. We played that last week and yeah, it's got a touch of autumnal drama about it. Anyway, next up we got a bit of David Bowie, and it's the 40th anniversary of the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars, which was released in 1972. And if you go looking down in Soho for the original phone box where Bowie stood for the LP sleeve, it's gone. My wife will be gutted. This is Lady Stardust and David Bowie. That was Lady Stardust by David Bowie, the brown sound of the 70s. Next up, we got one of my favourite Zeppelin tracks. This was taken from their 73 album, Houses of the Holy. And I've played this track to death, kind of since I was about 15 years old. Kind of one of those tracks that shows kind of Zeppelin's delicacy and their power. And there was that myth that kind of they wrote this track. Robert Plant and Jimmy Page wrote this track during their time up in Bronariah Farmhouse in Snowdonia. And, well, the sound of the track, it sounds believable, really. So this is off the album House of the Holy. This is Led Zeppelin and Over the Hills and Far Away. That was Over the Hills and Far Away by Led Zeppelin off the album Houses of the Holy. Well, they were always really bloody-minded, Zeppelin, because then they went and released the song Houses of the Holy on Physical Graffiti. Always really confused me when I was a kid. Anyway, next up, we've got a track called Little Black Submarines by the Black Keys. That was Little Black Submarines by the Black Keys. Next up, it's the feature, the album to hear before you pop your clogs, and this week's record is White Light, White Heat by the Velvet Underground. And I think this is their most uncompromising record by far, but it also has a special memory for me because I remember listening to the track called The Gift when I was about 15 years old. I remember realising that it was a Welsh voice that was narrating on this track, and of course, you know, I later discovered that that was John Cale. And that just kind of made me feel as if anything was possible. You know, John Cale was a member of one of the most influential bands of all time, and he was Welsh. So that was my Jim will fix it moment, I suppose. So first up we have the title track, White Light, White Heat, and after that, The Gift, featuring John Cale on lead vocals. You just hear The Gift and White Light, White Heat, both from the 1968 album by the Velvet Underground. Thankfully, we spared you the full 17-minute version of Sister Ray, but you do far worse than that. Anyway, next up we had a band from the Neath area. This is Coppola and Same Skies 1, The Golden Age. That was Coppola from Neath. That was Same Skies 1, The Golden Age. I'm James Dean Bradfield, and you're listening to BBC Radio Wales. Next up, we got some Georgia Ruth Williams from her latest EP, Luna. This is Through Your Hands. That was Georgia Ruth Williams and Through Your Hands. We got Rock Block next, and I'm going to start off with giving you examples of bands that carried on with different singers. So first of all, you've got Ultravox, John Fox to Midua, Van Halen, Dave Lee Roth to Sammy Hagar, Iron Maiden, Paul Di'Anno to Bruce Dickinson, and then you got Black Sabbath. So first of all, obviously it was Ozzy Osbourne, one of the best singers of all time. And then they had Ronnie James Dio for the album Heaven and Hell. And I think that kind of Ronnie James Dio absolutely pulled it off because following Ozzy Osbourne is just impossible. But on this track, Neon Nights, I just think they sound better than ever. But that might be heresy for some people, but that's my opinion. So in the rock block, we've got Neon Nights by Black Sabbath, and then we've got UFO, Rock Bottom, which is a hell of a riff. So that was the rock block. First you had Neon Nights by Black Sabbath with Ronnie James Dio on vocals, and then you had Rock Bottom by UFO with the complicated but brilliant Michael Schenker on guitar. Next up, we have one of the indie anthems, though a lot of people wouldn't count this as an anthem, but it counts for something because it really was a totemic song back in the 80s. This is Teenage Riot from the album Daydream Nation by Sonic Youth. That was the truly amazing Teenage Riot and Sonic Youth. Lost Prophets there, swinging for the fence they were on that track. That's called Bring 'Em Down. And they're going to be taking over this spot next Saturday night from 8 p.m. Good luck, lads. Anyway, next up, we've got a band that carries on the tradition of doing time in the army and then going on to make amazing records. Think of other examples. Jimi Hendrix, of course. You've got Billy Bragg, who did his time in the Corps. And then you've got a band called the Monks, who were kind of on a military base in Germany in the 60s. And they went on to form this band. And you can hear them raging against perhaps everything that kind of the army stood for on this track in particular. It's Nicky and the Manics that turned me on to this. This is Monk Time by the Monks. That was the Monks and Monk Time. I hope you enjoyed that. Next up, we have a band which, in a lot of people's opinion, are the best Welsh band of all time. Especially with this band, you kind of fall in love with them because there's an internal language or an internal logic within what the band does that you'll never quite crack as a listener, but you just fall in love with the mystery. So, you know, whether that be the Happy Mondays or whether it be the Fall, you know, two great examples of that. And then you have the Super Furry Animals. And I think that's why they're at the top of a lot of people's lists for the best Welsh band of all time. This is from Fuzzy Logic. This is called Long Gone. Oh, I haven't heard that for so long. I forgot how amazing that track is. That was Long Gone by the Super Furry Animals of Fuzzy Logic. And next up we have another Welsh artist. This is off the album Gathering Dusk. This is Hugh M and The Perfectly Silent. That was The Perfect Silence by Hugh M. Next up we go Rock Block 2. And the first track is Farewell to Kings by Rush. It's from the 1976 album Farewell to Kings. And apparently you can hear the bird song on that track is recorded outside in the courtyard at Rockfield Studios. And last week I think I mentioned Kingsley Ward, that was the founder of Rockfield Studios. And I still implore the Senedd to give him some kind of like cultural award for what he's contributed to music internationally, really. Anyway, there you go. That's another rant. And after that, you've got a track by Hannah Rocks, and this song you would see lots of people kind of like down at Bogies in the 80s, just crying into their beer when their girlfriends had dumped them. So these two songs are just really, really special to me from my childhood or my teenagerdom, whatever I want to call it. First of all, it's A Farewell to Kings by Rush, and then Don't You Ever Leave Me by Hannah Rocks. That was Rock Block 2, featuring Farewell to Kings by Rush and Don't You Ever Leave Me by Hannah Rocks. Next up, we have Troubadour again. We played them last week. And I just kind of love this band because it just sounds like their records have been made with a Pritt stick and a scissors kind of thing. It just sounds like collage for the digital age, and just a massive fan of theirs. And this is Sun in the Winter by Troubadour. One of Postcard Records' finest hours, that's Blue Boy by Orange Juice. And what a privileged position I'm in. I get to actually be on a show where you can hear Orange Juice and Rush at the same time. That's pretty unique. I'm James Bradfield, been taking over for Bethan Elfyn. I'm nearly out of time now, so we're going to crack on. And next up, we've got John Cale from the album Paris 1919, and this is Half Past France. That was John Cale off the album Paris 1919, and that was Half Past France. And I said the same thing last week, but when he played that at the Coal Exchange a couple of years back, especially that track was the best live performance I've ever seen in my life. So there you go. Next up, Shins have got their new album out this week. Big fan of theirs, and this is called The Rifle Spiral. That was Rifle Spiral by the Shins. It's only just come out. Some of the reviews seem to be a bit lukewarm about it, but on first listen, I think it's a good album. Next up, we've got the Smiths and the classic From Strangers You'll Become. This is Last Night I Dreamed Somebody Loved Me. That was Last Night I Dreamed Somebody Loved Me by the Smiths. So this is the final track for me. Thanks for listening, and thanks for putting up with the vagaries of my taste. Like I said, next week the Lost Prophets are going to be sitting in this chair, and good luck to them. Thanks to Saturday's Kids for a brilliant session. Really enjoyed that. And this next track, I don't know, I'm going to take the credit for being the person to give this track the first air on British radio, which might be a complete lie, but this is a song by a band called White Hills, and we did spare you the 70 minutes of White Light, White Heat earlier on, but this track does go on a bit. It's heavy and it's deep, and this is the White Hills, HB1. Good night.